We've moved one step closer to avoiding a government shutdown, with House and Senate leaders in both parties agreeing in principle to a package of compromises in the form of a $1.1 trillion spending bill. Now, there is a lot in a spending bill of that size. Some say that it would take far longer than 24 hours consecutively to sit down and read it. But we do have some initial information about some of the things included in that spending bill, and especially the last-minute compromises, the last-minute additions that were required to get both the Senate and the House to sign on to it. And some of the things that they snuck in are extremely objectionable. We're going to go through a number right now, starting with one that here at TYT strikes right to the heart of what we think is wrong with the political system. Limits on individual contributions to national parties would leap to $324,000 a year from the current $32,400 limit. So an increase of almost 10 times in terms of individual contributions to national parties. That's just thrown in. No real commentary about it. No case being made. You will be able to donate 10 times as much to the national parties. Now, obviously,
hold on. That language was snuck in on page 1599 out of a 1603 page bill.
That's a good stat.
So it's not the last page, because you might want to read that. It's the fourth to last page out of the 1600 page bill.
Yeah. An absolute gigantic increase. When it's becoming increasingly obvious, I think, partially through the efforts of Wolfpack and TYT, that the big problem that leads to all the other problems in our political system is the fact that our politicians are bought. And now you can buy them far more effectively. And this is for an individual, by the way. If you're a rich couple, you could be donating over the course of 2 years well over $1 million just to the political parties. That's not including the same sorts of contributions that can be made in the case of like a recount or a runoff election, donations to super PACs, donations to individual politicians. The limits just keep going back up. We had a small period a little bit over a decade ago where there was some common sense in the form of McCain-Feingold and things like that, and now they're just chipping back away at it.
It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, it's pretty much
gone. You know, Obama hasn't signed his bill yet, but if he does sign it, he will be the president who effectively signs away our democratic process. And this is the same man who, when he first got into office, said that the lobbyists will not control the Capitol Hill and the White House. He said he has no interest in lobbyists and they're going to be booted out of his administration. All the tough talk on lobbyists. He hasn't said a peep about it in however many years.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is, all the times that the media and the right goes after him for all the things that he said and did and that wasn't true and he lied and he flip-flopped, they never question him on that one. That's the one where they're like, okay, we'll forget about that one and we'll just let it go. But Barack Obama, make no mistake, will be the president that signs away our political process.
Yeah, no, we don't yet know if he's going to sign it. This hasn't passed the Senate. It hasn't even passed the House. We expect that on Thursday, the House will be voting on what's being called the omnibus, because it's a continuing resolution wrapped up in an omnibus spending bill. So that's on Thursday for the House. The Senate will be voting a day or two after that, and then we'll see what Obama is going to do. But considering the fact that the government's set to shut down in just a few days, it seems likely that, barring more revelations than we have here, that he would be likely to sign on to it.
Sign. He's not going to fight against both parties. Are you crazy? This is a bipartisan compromise.
Yeah.
He loves bipartisan compromises.
Yeah.
And whenever there's a bipartisan compromise, they compromise to fuck the American people, and it's exactly what's happening here.
Well, we have a few more ways that they've potentially fucked the American people.
Before we get there, I just want to make this point. If you are in favor of this, you're an idiot. Unless you and your wife or you and your husband can afford to spend $1.2 million buying our politicians every election cycle. Why do you think this is the case? It's so that these millionaires and billionaires can control our process and take money out of our tax coffers and to reduce services to you. You're not on their side. They're not on your side. So you should join Wolfpack. You should join Public Citizen and other groups trying to get money out of politics. Because even if you disagree with us on every single issue, this is the key issue. This is the key issue. If you want, better opportunity for your kids, for yourself, if you want cleaner environment, cleaner air, cleaner water, more job opportunities, everything that you would want as a regular citizen, this cuts against that. This makes sure that the powerful elite, no matter what their other beliefs may be, they get to control the process. They own our politicians. They write laws in their favors, and they privatize all the gains, and then they make public all the losses so that we bail them out. So I want people to understand that no matter what side of the political aisle they're on, this is not good for America. This is not good for our democracy. This is not good for you.
Okay. So you're telling me that this bill is a bad bill for America in general and the regular taxpayer, and that what this does is further rig the system in the hands of a handful of people who are the plutocrats running our country? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Boy, I can't wait to see Brian Williams and Chris Cuomo get all upset about this tonight on the news. I bet they're really going to take this thing down. Yeah. This will never pass once Brian Williams gets a sniff of it, right? He's going to go nuts. He's got NBC News behind him. He could shut this down all by himself. I bet he's going nuts. Oh, I can't wait. Set the TiVo.
Well, let's provide him with some ammunition for when he sticks it to the politicians who are influential in this. Some other things that were included in this spending bill. Representative Harold Rogers, Republican of Kentucky, included a measure preventing the Obama administration from directing agencies like the Export-Import Bank to oppose coal-fired power plants abroad, even after President Obama secured agreements from foreign countries like China to do the same. So we talked about that, I believe, 2 weeks ago. It was a fairly historic agreement between China and the U.S., two of the most polluting countries in the world. He managed to get that agreement, and now they're going to try to undercut it by making it impossible for him to push for fewer coal-fired power plants in a country that's making tons of them and generating tons of pollution as a result of it. In addition, this is an interesting one, another provision would ease rules of the dodd-frank securities regulation law of 2010 on some of the most exotic financial instruments that helped cause the most recent financial crisis. Republicans pushing the issue say such regulations were hitting community banks and small businesses that had nothing to do with the crisis. Yes, because the mom and pop pizza place I go to are buying exotic financial instruments, and that would that limits their ability to grow. No, of course, this is so that the biggest banks in the world can gamble with your money on derivatives and things like derivatives, and then if they crash the economy again, they will be once again bailed out with your money.
Yeah, and again, this goes to the heart of why money in politics is so critical, because this provision helps 0.00001% of the people. Okay, for the vast majority of Americans, you don't make any money from credit default swaps and these exotic derivatives. You know who makes money from that? The Wall Street bankers, okay?
Most people will never hear of those.
Exactly.
Let alone earn money on
You'll
them.
only hear about it when they bet and they lose, and then we bail them out with your tax dollars.
Exactly.
So again, this is not good for you.
Okay, then one final thing, because of course we can't discount that, of course, money is going to be thrown at the Defense Department. Now, overall, bear in mind the Defense Department's budget was technically cut under the spending bill, but that doesn't mean that they didn't throw some money at it. Appropriators added 4 F-35 Joint Strike Fighters that the Pentagon had not requested. The defense procurement program will cost an additional $479 million for those jets they did not request. Communities around military bases will get $32 million more than Congress had intended to give just months ago in lieu of property taxes. Now, this is always one of the best things. They say it's so hard to get the Department of Defense to cut its budget. But then even when they come and say, we want X number of tanks, there's always some congressman who represents a district where tanks are manufactured that said, no, you're getting 3 times X tanks, regardless of whether or not you need them, and you can figure out what to do with them after we shove them on you.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example. The defense budget was cut, but you know how it was cut? By freezing the salaries of people who work there, and by eliminating or reducing housing allowances. So if you're an employee, if you're a regular human being working for the Defense Department, you don't get anything. But if you're a defense contractor and you're selling these F-35 fighters, which have been grounded, which have been grounded back in July of this year, they've been grounded 13 times since 2007 because they suck. They cost $120, $140 million each. Well, we'll just order some more of those. And those defense contractors who are political donors will continue to get rich. This is how it works.
And one final thing you should know about this agreement, it funds the government for almost a year. Basically, the government would not have a shutdown for about a year, but it only funds the Department of Homeland Security until the beginning of next year, and that's seen as strike back against President Obama's temerity in making the changes to immigration law that would stop many from being deported. Now, of course, if there's some sort of massive international incident, or if there's tons of people trying to cross over the border and they need more money, we might be shit out of luck because they decided that they needed some political payback. Again, we don't know if this is going to pass the House, the Senate, or if Obama will choose to sign it, and we will, of course, keep you updated. And there's almost certainly more bad news in the pages we haven't yet got.